If Trump is assassinated and it is shown definitively that the assassin was a big fan of, Keith Olbermann or, consumed a ton of legacy media, those individuals should be held criminally responsible for the assassination of Trump. Okay, son, where are we today?
Williams College.
Williams College, and who are you?
Warren Smith.
Warren Smith, the man, the myth, the legend, what an honor. It's great to finally do some Spectrum Street epistemology with you.
Absolutely.
Today we're going to do the claim, Trump is a victim of left-wing stochastic terrorism.
Okay.
So
right.
I'll count down. I have no idea where you're going to move. You don't know where I'm going to move.
Should we define stochastic first before?
Yeah, okay. How would you define it?
We were just looking it up. It's something to do with media painting a picture, a political picture.
I think that's accurate.
Okay. So he would be a victim of the political picture that's been painted being a form of terrorism, right? Is that the claim? Or
yeah, so the way the media portrays him, he is a victim, particularly not all the media, but the way the left-wing media portrays him. He is a victim of a kind of media. My Boston accent just came out. Did you hear that?
I didn't know you're from Boston.
Yeah. It's weird being back here. That has direct consequences for him.
Sure, but is it terrorism now?
Yeah, that would be the sticking point. Well, if people are trying to kill him, that would be assassination,
okay.
An attempted assassination.
This will be interesting because I have mixed feelings on it. Let's try it. We'll see.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. Okay, grab the board. So what you want to do is you're going to write down the best reason you have for believing that. Okay? You want to guess mine first?
Sure. I'm going to guess that it's because there have been 2 attempts already on Trump as a consequence, likely, of how the media discusses and portray Trump and the MAGA party at large, the platform he's striving for. It has a direct consequence to those attacks. So I'm guessing that you're going to attribute it to because it's of a consequence.
Yeah, that's close enough. So you guessed it, which is pretty good, close enough. Mine is constant legacy media calling him a Nazi and dictator has direct consequences.
Yep.
And so if you're going to paint somebody as Hitler constantly, then from multiple independent legacy media sources, then that is obviously going to have a consequence. Mm-hmm. So it seems pretty obvious to me that the claim is true.
Interesting, yeah.
So can I guess yours?
Sure.
You're going to say that he brought it upon himself because of the incidents at the Capitol and because of his dividing rhetoric and discourse.
No.
Okay, I get 3 guesses.
Okay.
That was 1. Okay, you're going to say that you disagree with the term terrorism.
No, but that's good.
Is it better than the reason you have on the board?
It might be.
Okay.
It might be, yeah. Now that I've heard what you've said, I might revise this, but we'll see.
Okay. You wrote on the board, you don't accept the idea of stochastic terrorism?
No.
Oh, okay. What is your reason?
Freedom of speech.
Oh, I would not have guessed that. In fact, I did not guess that. Yeah. Can you explain that?
My thinking is, okay, well, because how do we balance the freedom of speech of someone to go onto, if you're a guest on CNN, someone comes as a guest on CNN and they have freedom of speech to share their perspective. Are they responsible for the consequences of that? In the same way we don't hold the guy who shot up the baseball stadium, we don't hold Bernie Sanders responsible for that. Or ideally we should not if we're following the logic. I'm seeing the logical connection between the two. So that would...
Okay, let me ask you a question if I may. Isn't the difference in this case that it is a constant barrage from Keith Olbermann and these people, Rachel Maddow, constant, I mean, it is an incessant, nonstop barrage. And I'm not saying that that criticism is not warranted. In fact, to be blunt, I think the vast majority of it is. But there's a line between painting someone as a dolt and an imbecile and an ideologue and a Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the kind of in aggregate painting him as a dictator, even if he has dictatorial impulses, to paint him that way, that has to have a consequence on the way people think and behave.
I agree with that. The question is, do they have the right to do it? And how do we measure this?
So if they had the right to do it, that claim could still be true. Trump is a victim of stochastic left-wing terrorism.
Perhaps, and maybe I should revise mine, because also there's the idea of like, do we treat the media differently given that it's CNN, a massive corporation that have this audience and this reach? Do we treat them like private individuals? So how do we balance freedom of speech with that? So I absolutely agree there's going to be consequences for that, for speaking in that way, but do they have the right to do that? And if they do have the right to do that, can it be categorized as terrorism?
Okay.
Do you have the right to do terrorism?
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but let's say that they have the right to do that. Let's just accept that by fiat. That claim can still be true, that he's a victim of left-wing stochastic terrorism.
I agree with that.
So then, if that's the case...
It's the terrorism word, though.
Okay, so then we have to have a conversation about terrorism.
Right.
Let's do the claim, stochastic terrorism as a concept should be taken seriously. Okay? Don't move yet, because I got to think of where I should move. Stochastic terrorism as a concept should be taken seriously. Okay, I know we're going to move. Do you know where we're going to move?
I do.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move.
I'm going to go agree.
Okay, so we both, I'm deaf in that ear, so I'm going to sit in. Okay, so we both agree that as a concept it should be taken seriously. Then the question is what's happening to Trump, what they're doing to Trump, is that stochastic terrorism? Or is the problem with the word terrorism?
Terrorism. Because you don't have the right to do terrorism. That would be part of the definition of terrorism for me.
Oh, I see. Now now I'm making the connection. Okay, now I see. Okay, so okay.
If the question was like, the effects on the attacks on Trump are a direct consequence of the media's action and coverage of him, is the coverage unbalanced? Is it problematic? I would absolutely agree. But would I categorize it as terrorism?
Okay. How do you define terrorism?
Illegal
okay.
actions
so
where you're trying to push through an outcome through illegal. Try not to use the word terror in the definition.
Yeah.
Through the waging of illegal mass.
All right. So let's do this claim. Stochastic terrorism is a right because people have freedom of the press.
Let's think for a second.
I got to think about where I'm going to move for that. Stochastic terrorism is a right because in this country we have freedom of the press.
But that's building in the presupposition that it's connected.
To terrorism, you mean?
Yeah.
Correct. Stochastic terrorism is a right because we have freedom of the press. I'm gonna go to the neutral on this one. Stochastic terrorism is a right because in the United States we have freedom of the press.
I don't think it's a right, though. I don't think it's a right.
I guess that
the definition is where I'm getting hung up.
Of terrorism?
Stochastic terrorism.
Okay. Can the media paint a picture of somebody wholly false?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
As long as they don't make an accusation against someone like this guy's a child molester or something.
Libel laws should protect
Yeah,
against
we have
that.
libel laws in this country.
So if you were to move into libel territory and then there's a consequence where someone dies, perhaps we could. Because what is the alternative? Are we going to censor the media?
Well, that we can't censor them.
Right.
Yeah, we can't. So the alternative would be people just don't tune into legacy media.
You're absolutely right.
They just go to new media like Barry Weiss's Substack.
Right. But if it was stochastic terrorism, we would be responsible. We would have a responsibility to actually take legal action against the media. And there's something about that.
Not if they, I don't know, not if they just, if they paint a picture of Trump as a deranged dictator.
It's irresponsible.
But it's still covered,
Morally
it is
wrong.
still freedom of the press.
It's still freedom of the press, though.
I've actually convinced myself to move. Stochastic terrorism is a right because of freedom of the press.
Yeah, I'll go with slightly agree too.
Okay. Wow,
Yep.
you made a big move. What caused you to move?
Oh, I didn't realize that was the question we were on there. It was a right, probably just the thought process we just went through. Because what are we going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do? You can paint a picture of anybody you want. I don't know. What are you going to do?
Because we can't, yeah. How do we balance freedom of speech?
That's the perennial question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. If Trump is assassinated and it is shown definitively that the assassin was a big fan of, Keith Olbermann or, consumed a ton of legacy media,
Yep.
those individuals should be held criminally responsible for the assassination of Trump.
I'm going to disagree. I hate to do it, but I'm going to have to disagree to be logically consistent because I don't think I don't think Trump is responsible directly for people's actions on January 6th following that same logic. In the same way the Bernie Sanders guy or the guy in the baseball stadium, Bernie Sanders, is not responsible for that.
I mean, anybody can put out a story on anything. It's the gullibility of the public, like the whole pizza pedophile ring, which didn't exist.
Right.
What if the assassin wrote a letter and said, because of this story from this, again, to use Keith Olbermann, probably the most unhinged of the far left identitarian maniacs, saying this story caused me to shoot Trump because Trump is a danger to the Republic. Keith Olbermann should be held directly responsible for the assassination of Trump.
I would go strongly on that one too,
Yeah,
for
I'm
the
on
same
other
reason.
side.
The same reason I can't write a letter saying I saw Peter Boghossian's video and that justifies what I did.
Correct.
Because we can't hold anyone else responsible for people's actions.
Correct. The only person who's responsible for shooting Trump is the person who shot Trump. I'm
Correct.
not responsible, you're not responsible, that guy's not responsible.
Correct.
People have to be held responsible for the things they do.
Correct. Yes, I think so. Because this is an argument that'll be wielded by both sides, which is why I'm reluctant to go these ways, because I disagree with what they're saying. But it can be wielded as a weapon.
Okay, what would cause you to move to disagree? What would cause me to move to disagree? Do you want me to answer that question first, or do you want to?
Sure.
What would cause me to move to disagree would be if the claims were knowingly false. Well, then I would actually move to slightly agree. If he put out knowingly false, or then I'd move to neutral.
Right.
If he put out knowingly false claims that he was in possession of paperwork that said Trump was going to, have his VP killed and assume something like that.
Right. For me, it would be if we uncovered some form of communications showing like a conspiracy, let's say it's CNN, they knowingly, like you said, knowingly pushed a false story with the intention
Correct.
of sabotaging something. We have objective evidence in that case, though. I would say of a larger, so then it's the larger conspiracy. It's not so much.
All right, I have a question for you. There should be limits on freedom of the press.
What kind of limits?
I guess there already are limits on freedom of the press.
As far as laws, right?
Libel laws. All right, well, let's wrap it up. All right, thanks,
Very
man.
good. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thanks.
Yeah, that was good.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. This falls under the umbrella of my nonprofit, National Progress Alliance. Your generous donations keep us going and help fuel content like this. We truly appreciate your support. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.